Peace, what's good? This is your host, Go Green. Welcome to the Green of Thrones. We doing Knicks talk late night. Ain't no game tonight, but I couldn't have Green of Thrones going on, and we didn't do an episode to celebrate, with the bar set so low this season and all. We had to do an episode celebrating the streak ending. The Knicks won their first game at the Garden since December 1st. How horrible is that? Or how good is that? Depending on the glass half full, half empty, right? The last win was a quality win at that, against the Milwaukee Bucks back on December 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So since that time, the Knicks they've won, I think, may have won one or two games on the road, but at the Garden they hadn't won until yesterday. And then it was another quality win against the San Antonio Spurs. So, yeah, interesting. But let's just go through, before we get into, I want to talk a little bit about Dennis Smith Jr. Obviously, we're going to talk about the game last night versus the Spurs. I want to talk a little bit about Mitchell Robinson. I think he is turning out to be the steal of the draft, and I want to talk a little bit about Dame Dotson. So yeah, but before we do that, we're going to look at the matchup. So the Knicks beat the Spurs 130-118. What I thought was interesting is that the Knicks outscored the Spurs every quarter in the game. They outscored them 30-26 in the first quarter, 32-27 in the second quarter, 32-30 in the third quarter, and 36-35 in the fourth quarter. So, the Knicks played a consistent game. It might be probably the best victory of the season, considering all the new guys that are on the team. The Spurs' biggest lead was 3. The Knicks' biggest lead was 23. I believe that 3-point lead the Spurs got was very early in the game. The game was tied 5 times. The longest run was 9, and there was 6 lead changes. DeMar DeRozan led the Spurs with 32 points, and Damian Dotson hit 8 3-pointers, scoring 27 points. Mitchell Robinson had 14 rebounds. He also had 15 points and 5 blocks. There was 2 players on the Spurs tied with 9 rebounds. 2 players on the Spurs tied with 4 assists, and Dennis Smith Jr. led the Knicks with 13 assists. The Spurs out-rebounded the Knicks by 1, not bad for the Knicks. They also out-rebounded the Knicks on the offensive boards by 2, overall by 1, but the Knicks out-rebounded them on the defensive board by 1, 37-36. Knicks had 25 assists on only 6 turnovers. One thing the Knicks have done well all season, even before Dennis Smith Jr., and Dennis Smith Jr. had 13 assists with no turnovers last night. So I thought that was important. But the Knicks haven't been a high turnover team this season. They're only averaging about 13 turnovers a game. I believe that's under the league average, but don't quote me on that. So all things considered, them being a real young team, I thought that was important to point out. The Knicks held the Spurs to 44% from the field, so decent defense. They held them to 25% from three-point range, while themselves shot 51% from the field and then 43% from three-point range. And then the Knicks only shot 73% from the free throw line, where the Spurs shot 90%. So the Knicks could have won by even more points had they hit their free throws. So, the Knicks pretty much outplayed them throughout the game. And that trio of Damian Dotson, Mitchell Robinson, and Dennis Smith Jr., those are the 3 guys I really want to talk about tonight. Just to see a flash, right? We're not getting out of hand here. We're not getting ahead of ourselves. But just to see a flash of what these guys can do when they play a complete game, win or lose, it's got to be a little bit exciting, especially at the point guard spot. Rob says, shout out to, as y'all know, if you've not been with us before, I went right into it before I did the proper introduction. But for those that's watching on the GoGoGadget Green YouTube channel, please subscribe, GoGoGadget Green. Please come and join my Facebook group, the Green of Thrones NYC Sports Talk. That's the Green of Thrones NYC Sports Talk. And to everybody here in my live group at the Green of Thrones, if you haven't already, please go and subscribe to please go and subscribe to GoGoGadget Green on YouTube. That's GoGoGadget Green on YouTube. So now, we got some people here in the live stream. Rob says, we have good young role players. We need the bona fide superstar to lead us. Absolutely. Absolutely. We absolutely need the veterans to kind of balance things out a bit. I mean, look at the common influence that DeAndre Jordan brought in just his little bit of time there. You just see the difference, like an extension of the coaching staff, someone else out there to help these young players with their confidence and their day-to-day habits and routines. And I gotta believe that it resonates differently coming from a player who's had some success as an individual in the league than from coaches. Obviously, coaches are paid to do that, to get their message across to you. But I gotta believe that the best coaches know how to count on the players on their roster to help get their message out there more effectively. So just that little bit of common influence from DeAndre Jordan, I can only imagine we got a bona fide superstar that could help lead some of these younger players, Silas says, yeah, we definitely have some nice pieces, that's for sure. So I wanted to, speaking of, let's segue right into some of that young talent, and let's start with the main player, Dennis Smith Jr. If you're in different Knicks groups or if you read different things, you're saying that some people feel like the Knicks are not salivating over a point guard in free agency as much with the emergence of Dennis Smith Jr. Obviously, you want him to continue to develop in these last 23 or 22 games, whatever's left. You would like to see him play a lot like what you saw last night against all teams. 19 points and 13 assists with no turnovers. He had some rebounds in there as well. He played really good defense as well. I have water around here somewhere, and I don't know. Oh, here it is. So just the all-around game. I mean, the dunk he missed, right? He gives the oohs and ahs. He just makes the right plays. The dunk he missed, he almost caught the poster on this dude. He's just really a really exciting young player with a lot of potential. And so the other night against Minnesota, when the Knicks lost, the first game after the All-Star break, a lot of Knicks fans seem to be agitated that Fizdale went with Moutier down the stretch of the fourth quarter. And Moutier was playing really, really well. He went with Moutier down the stretch over Dennis Smith Jr. And the sentiment from some Knicks fans was, well, why would he play Moutier if we know Moutier's not even going to be back this summer? It makes no sense. Just let Dennis Smith Jr. play. But one of the things that, and Fizdale has spoken about it since, Dennis Smith Jr. is not in the type of shape that the Knicks young players are in. Let's go back to the summertime. Davis Fizdale and the Knicks coaching staff was stressing the running they were having these guys doing and stressing that they come into training camp ready to run hard, not use training camp to get in shape, but come into training camp in shape so they can immediately start playing basketball at the pace the coach wanted them to play basketball. And, the Knicks have done a real good job throughout the season of being a very well-conditioned team, obviously a young and inexperienced team, but still a very well-conditioned team. And that game against Minnesota, Moutier was clearly in better condition than Dennis Smith Jr., and that was Moutier coming off injury. Well, Moutier, I believe, hurt his shoulder, so he said he was running a lot during his time away. He was doing a lot of running, so he never stopped running. And when I was watching the game against Minnesota, when he got on the court, Walt Clyde Frazier immediately pointed out how much thinner Moutier looked coming off of an injury. So that just spoke to how hard, Moutier was working out while he was injured. Dennis Smith Jr. was playing 24 minutes a game or so in Dallas, and being pulled for every mistake, turnover he made. Now, that's not to knock Carlisle and how he wanted to develop his young point guard, but what I am pointing out is that Dennis Smith Jr. has come to the Knicks and being asked to lead the team and play minutes that he's not played. In his second game with the Knicks, he had his career high in minutes when he played like 40 minutes. And that's after being in the league for a year and a half. So the Knicks are already asking Dennis Smith to do more than he usually does. Now, if you read the newspapers today or yesterday, whenever it came out, David Fizdale and Dennis Smith Jr. both spoke about how David Fizdale challenged Dennis Smith and how Dennis Smith accepted the challenge to get into better shape. Over the All-Star break, he talked about how he eats. Typical young Southern brother. That's how he referred to himself, in my own words. And, he doesn't necessarily have a healthy diet. So just today, and this came out, you could read the New York Post or any New York media or Twitter reporter on Twitter you follow. I'm sure you can find this information. Today, Dennis Smith went grocery shopping with the Knicks nutritionist to prepare his refrigerator for his new diet so he can work on his body. So what I'm getting at is we've seen the explosion and potential from this kid, and he's doing that without even eating right. Now, I don't know I'm not going to say they weren't telling him to eat better in Dallas, but it seems like a new thing to him to change his diet. And anybody that has tried to change their diet a little bit for the better, you all know you feel better when you do it. And I can't imagine what a world-class athlete feels like when they lay off the sugars and the fats, or at the times that they eat these things too, right? The intake, how often you eat it, when you eat it, heavy breakfasts, light dinners, not eating late, not eating overnight, just different things, These kids get on the court and run up and down. They don't have to care about things like that. It makes me think about years ago, Steve Francis, who Dennis Smith reminds me of a bit. Steve Francis used to suffer from migraines, I believe it was. And in his first maybe 4 or 5 years in the NBA, what he found out was things in his diet. I don't remember exactly what foods it was, so I don't want to start making stuff up, but things he was eating were the cause of his migraines. He basically hired a chef and changed his whole diet, and his migraines went away. Now, I'm not speaking of Steve Francis, the player. I'm just talking about how the change in your diet can impact you positively, and it only bodes well for the Knicks that Dennis Smith Jr. is doing this at 21 years old. Before I keep on talking, so Rob speaking to Carlisle, pulling him in and out, and how that affects his confidence. I think that is exactly what happened in Dallas. But I think the difference in Dallas was once Luka came on the set, not only were you getting pulled out the game, now you got somebody out there playing well and doing the things that Carlisle once done in his offense. So it definitely can affect the confidence for sure. Yeah, Silas. So Silas, you read some of the article. Silas brought up the point that Dennis Smith Jr., he talked about how he had a steady diet of Bojangles. Now, if y'all don't know, Bojangles is like down south fried chicken spot. You understand what I'm saying? So can you imagine? Like, this kid is sitting there eating greasy fried chicken and biscuits and probably drinking soda and having ice cream and a pie with it and all that. And then going on the court, running up and down and just burning it off. Like, you're bound to destroy your body as a world-class athlete. Maybe he could survive as a good basketball player, but not an elite one with that type of diet. So it's just good to know that this is what development is. People talking about tanking, and, I'm not going to say they are or they aren't. It's just, I'm looking at the development. There's 22, 23 games left. I'm looking for a lot of the little things. Kevin Knox, double-digit rebounds the other night. That's what I'm looking for. How is he going to step up the effort in what the coach is asking him to do? Damian Dotson, can he be the consistent knockdown shooter? I was watching Dennis Smith go off the dribble, set up the defender every time because he's a threat to go to the basket every time, shift the whole defense over, and all he was doing was setting it up to give Dame an open look. I was watching it time and time again. Dennis Smith Jr. was making a concentrated, is that the right word? He was making a strong effort to set up his teammates. And I'm just watching him set them up off the dribble. And then sometimes he would just go all the way because he's just faster than everybody on the court most of the time. And the defense can't keep him in front of them. So you have this shooter out there. Then you got Kevin Knox, driving and scoring his own buckets. He started off rough and then woke up a bit. So it was just good to see all of those things come together. But to see Dennis Smith, who's only 21 years old, being asked to be a leader of even younger players, when you think about Mitch Robinson, who's 20, and Kevin Knox, who's 19. Trier is 23. But I'll put it out there. As a Knicks fan, I'm not gonna dare ask you, do you want this guy over Kyrie or Kemba Walker? What I am gonna ask you is, if Dennis Smith Jr. could finish out the season putting together nights like last night, are you still in the same rush to grab a point guard, or would you rather take that max money and try to get two other better players, elite players, to put with this young point guard? Now, I still think he has a long way to go. He has to work on his shot. I think he has a lot of things to work on. But like Fizdale said, he's making fatigue mistakes out there. It's not that he can't do certain things. He's watching them do it. He's tired. He's already tired, so he has to take them out. Then you got Moutier out there running up and down, hitting shots all crazy so he gets to play. Now, obviously, that slowed down last night against the Spurs, and Dennis Smith got back in to do what he had to do. But I think that there's not as much pressure to go after the point guard position when you have this type of player on their rookie contract, and you can probably surround them with an elite shooting guard and small forward, or an elite small forward and power forward. How much better does Dennis Smith look next to all NBA talent? Let's see, we got some posts in here. Al, yeah, that Bojangles, that's that down south Popeyes, right? Yeah. And what's the irony of that, right? Isn't Popeyes supposed to be based in Louisiana? That's even further south. Johnny is a Lakers fan. He's hating. He says he hates Knicks fans. Good night, Johnny. You welcome to stay here if you like. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They got Popeyes in the south too. Bojangles just another option. Silas says a concerted effort. Thank you. A concerted effort. And he said he noticed it too. He can get anywhere on the court at any time. And what's interesting about him being able to get anywhere on the court at any time is that he don't have a jump shot. His jump shot, he's not a threat. You want to give him the jump shot. You prefer to see Dennis Smith shoot. So when he's coming at people with the dribble off the handle, the defense he's backing them down and then running right past them. They're trying to keep the defense sunk in to dissuade him from driving to the basket, but yet off the dribble he's shifting the whole defense and getting the ball wherever he wants it to go. Now, of course, it looks a lot better when guys are hitting shots. I mean, did you see Lance Thomas last night? Can you believe Lance Thomas is even still on the Knicks? Like, Lance Thomas, once again, how many times will you say Lance Thomas played his best game as a Knick? I thought he played his best game as a Knick a couple times when we had Carmelo Anthony. But there he was last night, knocking down shots, playing defense. everybody that Dennis Smith was hitting was just knocking down. And Mitch Robinson, forget about it. Let's see. Before we move on to Mitch. Mr. Live, what's good, my brother? Mr. Live says, I actually feel like we need to give Moutier and Smith Jr. their shot. It might cost us a Ja Morant. With these guys, it make it easier to pick a Barrett or a Reddish. I'm glad you said that. Ja Morant is no longer on my radar. Once the Knicks got Dennis Smith Jr., Ja Morant was not on my radar anymore. Not because he's not nice, but we wouldn't need to go that route. So I feel you on that. I agree with you 100%. And it's not a knock to Ja Morant. It's more so saying, hey, I see what we have in Dennis Smith Jr., so I don't need to draft his competition. I'd rather draft something that makes us more versatile. You know, I personally don't think Cam is ready just yet, but the less pressure Cam Reddish has on him when he gets drafted, I think it'll be an ideal situation. So if the Knicks are able to use one of their max contract slots, maintain Dennis Smith, you can bring in Cam. You got Trio, you got Knox there. You know, a guy like Cam Reddish is not going to be asked to do a lot. He can kind of develop on his own. But Andre Barrett, forget about it, of course. You said something else. You know, the thing with Moutier that makes things interesting, because is Moutier a backup point guard? Is Moutier going to settle for a backup contract? I don't know. Will somebody offer Moutier a deal that makes it, gives him, will somebody offer him a deal that pays him like a starter? Will somebody offer him the starting spot? Because the thing with Moutier is, the Knicks have to renounce Moutier's salary cap hole in order to have the max contract space. Now, that doesn't mean they can't work something out to bring him back. I'm just saying that I agree Moutier should play, and especially if the Knicks don't need to sign a point guard in the offseason, if Moutier is willing to be a backup point guard, kind of like how they looked last night, and even how they looked against Minnesota when they lost, when Dennis Smith didn't play so well and Moutier played better. I think them two guys going at each other in practice will make Moutier a lot better and make Dennis Smith a lot better too, though Moutier is not much of a defender. But yeah, I think I agree with that. I like Moutier getting a shot, and I think he's going to get it. I think Fizdale likes him. If you remember Mr. Live, from day one, from David Fizdale's press conference, one of the main players he named was Moutier. He said, we're going to get you right, or something to that effect. So I didn't forget about that. Al says, Dennis Smith Jr. spreads the floor well. I haven't seen him play like that in a while. You know, we haven't seen it because we haven't had a point guard that is a threat to get to the basket every single time he has the ball. And not just a threat. Moutier is also a threat to get to the basket as soon as he gets the ball. The difference is Moutier doesn't have the explosion that Dennis Smith Jr. has. And Dennis Smith Jr. he's an excellent finisher. The layups he makes at the basket, it just baffles me that Moutier not be similar to Dennis Smith Jr., but I'm blown away at how much Emmanuel Moutier misses at the rim at his height. But one night I was listening to Alan Hahn and what's his name? The dude from the what's the other guy's name? Oh man, I hate when I can't think of people's names. Well, anyway, I was listening to Alan Hahn on his Facebook page, and he answered one of my questions. I asked him, why does Emmanuel Moutier miss so much at the rim? It's like he's got the move to get there. He can break down the defense. Then he gets to the rim and he just can't finish. And what Alan Hahn said was, he said he's not as explosive as you're used to seeing in the NBA. You know, he's got the height, he's got the size, he's got the strength, he's got a decent first step, but he's really not an explosive guy for his size. And I was like, you know what, that makes sense. So when he's getting to the rim and he's shooting over these guys, he's shooting over them using savvy, not just athletic explosion, kind of like how Dennis Smith has. But Dennis Smith is also a quality finisher, and you can see that. What else we got? So Silas says he thinks Dennis Smith is worth investing the future in. Forget about a point guard in free agency. With the right coaching, he can become a stud. No doubt about that. I agree. Mr. Live agrees with that. Correct. I agree 100%. Give Dennis Smith Jr. the right coaching. Give him the opportunity to make it happen. And you got this on his rookie contract. You cannot, the value in that just cannot be undersold. The value in that cannot be undersold. Silas says, how do you think Ntilikina's feeling about now regarding job security? Well, I actually think this is a huge benefit for Frank Ntilikina. I think Frank Ntilikina should be feeling as free and as little pressure as he's felt this season. The reason I say that is Frank Ntilikina, and somebody else said this in one of the media outlets. I definitely saw this somewhere, and I agree with it. Frank Ntilikina, every time he doesn't play well, I'm sure he's heard Knicks fans say, man, why didn't we draft Dennis Smith Jr.? We should have drafted Dennis Smith Jr. Why did we take Frank Ntilikina over Dennis Smith Jr.? So now the Knicks have Dennis Smith Jr. And the point guard spot, there's no other young point guard on the team that's getting the spot over Dennis Smith Jr. If someone gets the spot over Dennis Smith Jr., it's a guy that's not on the team yet. So Dennis Smith Jr. got the starting spot on Smash. So Frank Ntilikina can now go and develop into whatever it is he wants to develop into. He doesn't have to have the pressure of being an NBA point guard on the New York Knicks anymore. He doesn't. He can go out there, play some defense, and work on his three-point shot. Think about it. We're not concerned about him having moves. We're not concerned about him scoring anymore. We're not concerned about him setting people up. All we need him to do now is play defense and shoot threes. Play defense, shoot threes. Play defense, shoot threes. Speaking of playing defense and shooting threes, good segue to talk about my man Damian Dotson. But let's see. Hold on. Yo, Chris, what's good, bro? Damian Dotson. I love how when DeMar DeRozan got in his face, he kind of looked at him like, come on, man, that's not even that serious. And it wasn't that serious. I'm going to tell you what happened. DeMar DeRozan was like the nerve of these dudes to actually be playing hard. The nerve of this no-name second rounder trying to bang threes and play defense and play aggressive and put elbows into my side and all that. Like, the nerve of this dude to do that. These dudes is the worst team in the league. The nerve of them to actually try to end their winning streak at home against us. That's what I saw from DeMar DeRozan. But Dotson didn't back down. He let him know. He didn't get all overexcited either, though. He didn't step outside of himself either and feel like he needed something to prove. He said what he had to say, and then he played basketball. And they kept on playing within his game. Listen, I'm going to tell you flat out, Damian Dotson looks like he can be a special shooter in the NBA. He's about 6'5", 6'6", very athletic frame, so he can play defense. He's got range. He's a spot-up shooter. And, every now and then, it's rare, he puts the ball on the floor and shows me a move to the basket. And, I like that. But his shooting, he's been a decent... The more time he plays, the better his shot looks. And it's consistent. You had nights like the game against Minnesota. He had 20 points in the first half. And then in the second half, he finished the game with 22. He didn't do anything in the second half. He couldn't get it going again. Then he shows up against the Spurs and DeMar DeRozan, and he keeps it going. The fire kept going. He kept shooting well. He kept knocking them down. He kept showing up. He kept being a factor. And once again, the value, I'm not getting overhyped on the Knicks players, but the value that the Knicks have some of these young players at, and at their contracts, with their contracts and the potential they're showing, listen, man, if the Knicks whiff in free agency, I think most of y'all agree, we don't want to spend money just to spend money. We don't want to go sign two guys that are really good players but are going to barely get us out of the Eastern Conference Finals. let alone actually to the finals and actually winning the finals, or two guys that get us to we're perennial second rounders. I'd rather not spend that money. I'd rather bring that young quarterback to play another year and win a couple more games next season. Because these guys are talented. And there's value in their talent because they're inexpensive. Damian Dotson is a second-round draft pick. And speaking of the other second-round draft pick, my man, Mitch Robinson, and I'm going to say it right now, steal of the draft. Throw some players out there, please. Silas says Dot is one of the few, if not the best move Phil Jackson made. Well, you know what, Silas? I'll take Dot is the second best move Phil Jackson made because Phil Jackson drafted Kristaps Porzingis, and Kristaps Porzingis got us that haul from Dallas that puts us in the running to answer all our prayers this summer. And even if we don't, our financial future and draft pick, our pot is full and overflowing. You know, Porzingis got us that. So I'm still giving Phil credit for the Porzingis pick. And Dotson is the second best thing Phil Jackson has done. Absolutely. And if the Knicks don't get any free agents this summer, I'll change that and say that Dotson is the best thing that Phil Jackson did. Second round draft pick. Let's talk about Mitchell Robinson. Yo, listen to me, man. I'm watching Mitchell Robinson impact the game without the basketball. He's blocking three-pointers. As Walt Clyde Frazier says, he's becoming adept at blocking three-pointers, something you do not see in the NBA. A lot of times you hear people say, why are you even trying to block the three-point shot? Just put your hands straight up in the air and try to impede his vision a little bit. Blur his vision a little bit. Just get in the way. Mitch is actually blocking three-point shots from different shooters, from quick release guys, from off the dribble guys, from step back, which is off the dribble. But I'm just saying, you name it, he's impacting the game in ways that makes me go, man, this kid is 20 years old, played no college ball. What will he look like in 3 or 4 years? Because the alley-oops, it's like you just throw it up there. He catches it from anywhere, just like we saw in Summer League. All right? We starting to see the Mitchell Robinson from Summer League where the talent was inferior compared to what he's facing now. We're starting to see him make NBA players look like how he was looking in Summer League. And the biggest difference is he's not picking up the fouls. And by not picking up the fouls, he's getting into a better flow and staying in the game. I'm watching him grab the offensive rebounds. His hands are getting better, but he's still not good when he's driving and catching. But when you throw it in the air, he catches everything. And the shot blocking, he's one of the top 10 shot blockers in the NBA, leading all rookies in block shots. And he's coming off the bench. He played 30 minutes against the Spurs. This is against LaMarcus Aldridge. You know, he's another guy that lately, every game, the more he plays, you feel like you keep saying, oh, he had his best game. He had his best game as a pro. He had his best game as a pro. Last night, 14 points, 15 rebounds, I believe it was, 5 blocks against LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm not mad at that. This kid is right out of high school, played no college ball, no competitive basketball during the whole college season. Was getting into foul trouble all NBA, all first half of the season. Excuse me. DeAndre came, put some pointers out to him. Oh, another article I read. And this is about Mitch Robinson. So, DeAndre Jordan obviously was in Mitch Robinson's ear. They spoke about it in the news media, the New York media, and he's in his ear at practice. He's like a big brother to him. And Fizdale talked about how, like, Mitch Robinson's game, the defensive part of his game is a lot like what DeAndre brings with the alley-oops and so on, and how his experience could help Mitch. And you saw it as soon as Mitch got there. DeAndre got there, you saw the improvement from Mitchell Robinson. It was almost overnight. But I read an article about so Mitchell Robinson's trainer is the same trainer of Anthony Davis, and so obviously he works and knows current and former NBA players. But before DeAndre Jordan got to the Knicks and was helping out Mitchell Robinson, his trainer had him working with Kerry Kittles, who used to play for the New Jersey Nets. And Kerry Kittles was helping Mitch Robinson understand angles and to not reach so much, and to help him lessen the amount of fouls he would pick up during the game so he could stay on the floor. So the trainer wanted to make sure he gave Kerry Kittles credit, because though DeAndre Jordan was getting a lot of the credit, and he said he should get credit, Kerry Kittles had already been working with Mitch Robinson. So it's awesome what the Knicks are doing in the background. They got their young players working with these young guys. You know, you had Kevin Knox with Bernard King, and obviously Bernard King ain't on the court no more, but still one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. Just a young guy to talk to a guy like that. So, and then to have Mitch out there with guys like Kerry Kittles, and his trainer also said, you know, he has Mitch. He's training Mitch to do the things the Knicks want him to work on, but he was like, he can't wait until the Knicks open up Mitch Robinson's game, because he can do a lot more. So I was happy to see that and hear that, because, you know, if you look at some of Mitch Robinson's highlight tapes, obviously it's not against anybody, but you just see some, you know, eyebrow-raising athleticism, and you got to wonder, through more than half an NBA season with only 20 or so games left and everything he's been working on, I just wonder how some things look in practice that he's probably able to do that he maybe not be allowed to do in games, and frankly may not need to do just yet. So I'll be looking forward to Summer League this year. The Knicks will be exciting if obviously they don't trade the whole team because of free agency and all that. I mean, all this could be moot points, but I would love to see Dennis Smith Jr. and Mitch Robinson and Trier and Knox back next year with a couple of, you know, top all NBA free agents. That would be the icing on the cake for me, like, to keep the squad, the young squad we have, and let them be the role players around a couple of veterans in there as well, and then go from there. But you know, who knows? But let's see, before we keep it moving, what else we got here? Al says, Zion's injury, considering we get him in the draft, should we worry about him being a bust? You know, we have a history taking on unhealthy players. Well, first, let's be clear. Zion doesn't have injury history. We saw that was faulty equipment. We saw the sneaker literally blew out. So that injury was because of the sneaker. It wasn't because his knee just tweaked on him. So I'm not going to worry about Zion and injuries just yet. With regards to unhealthy, listen, if you have the number one pick in the draft, you taking Zion. I mean, there's no way around it. The only way that changes is if the tournament starts and Barrett goes crazy in the tournament. I don't think there's any other player in college basketball that can do anything super special in the tournament that could change the draft position to put them ahead of Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett, excuse me. Obviously, Ja Morant is in that conversation, and if Murray State, you know, did something special in the tournament, considering they're a smaller school and they got all the way to the Final Four or further, you know, the Sweet 16 even, Ja Morant is going to be looked at as the number one pick. But once again, if the Knicks have that pick and they keep in Dennis Smith Jr., then Ja Morant is not an option. But Zion will be the number one pick no matter what. If he blows out his knee or something like that, And, or he has what's this guy's name? What was his name? The Porter Jr. dude from that Denver drafted. I believe he dropped to 14th. He was projected to go top 1 or 2 or 3, and he fell to 14th because he has a bad back. He's already had back surgeries. Is it Michael Porter Jr., I think is his name? But Denver could afford to do that. They drafted him, and look at them. They're right behind the Warriors for the second best record in the Western Conference and one of the top records in the NBA. So they could afford to do that. But unless Zion has some kind of freak injury or real bad injury where he can't play next season, he'll go number 1 no matter who has the number 1 pick. So I wouldn't worry about it. No, I would not worry about it. I'm not worried about Zion's health at all. I'm not worried about it at all. Silas Parker says, not too quick to give Phil Jackson credit for KP. He kind of fell in his lap. Fair enough. But the Knicks were scouting KP hard. They were scouting KP hard. And, fair enough. You're probably right. But guess what? The Lakers could have took him. Who was it? Philly could have took him. And both of those teams right now would prefer that they had taken him. Now, obviously, D'Angelo Russell is balling for the Nets, but he had to get traded. And what was the other kid's name that got drafted in front of Porzingis to Philadelphia? He's with the Pelicans now. I can't think of his name right now, but I agree. KP did fall in his lap, but the Knicks were scouting KP pretty tough. But fair enough. I won't debate you on that one. Let's see what we got. Jordan has had a tremendous influence on Mitch Robinson, and the sky's the limit for him. I agree, but I do want to point out, like I said before, his agent point out guys like Kerry Kittles and who knows who else is working with this kid in the background. So that's dope. Thyra, what's good, my brother? Silas says, don't think current management will mortgage our youngins on the pies in the sky. They already erased most of Phil's mistakes. Based on what I saw so far, I have total confidence in those brothers. I agree. What time is it? I said I was only going to go till 10:30. So if y'all don't come up with any more questions, then I'll start wrapping this up. But I don't think they'll mortgage the future on pies in the sky. But is Anthony Davis a pie in the sky? That's a fair question. That's a question I have for y'all. Anybody listening? Is Anthony Davis pie in the sky? Are you mad if the Knicks can pair up Anthony Davis with 2 max free agents? So that's the challenge for the Knicks. How much do you value a 27-year-old Anthony Davis? I mean, 27 is... he's 26 now. I would think going into next season, by the end of next season, he'll be 27 or 28. So how much do you value Anthony Davis at that age? And the other thing is, as far as the injury proneness, just to play, devil's advocate, Anthony, if you pair him up with 2 other elite players, his injury history is not as crucial because you have people to carry the torch while he's down, similar to Golden State. Steph Curry, nobody talks about how often Steph Curry misses games. He's been a little better, obviously, these last couple seasons, but even last year he missed his share of games. The year in the finals he wasn't healthy. The year they lost the finals to Cleveland. But when you have Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and now Boogie Cousins on the team, if Steph, he's not banged up now, but if Steph is a little hurt, it doesn't hurt you as bad. So I don't know what y'all think about AD, not Anthony Davis. Fair enough. You could pair up Anthony Davis with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. I'm just saying that's the type of thing that'll be on the plate for the Knicks front office. Alonzo Trier, Kevin Knox, Dennis Smith Jr., first round pick this year. Are these guys worth a guy like that? And you may be right. You may be right. Maybe you don't do that for Anthony Davis. But I would say Anthony Davis is not pie in the sky. And if you do that for Anthony Davis, here's my thing about Anthony Davis. I don't want Anthony Davis to come here as the guy. I want Anthony Davis to come here with other guys because I don't trust Anthony Davis's health at all. Not at all. Not at all. So I hear you, Silas. Oh, okay. Excuse me. Okay, so Silas just corrected me. He actually said he meant he's no pie in the sky. You get AD. Al says Anthony Davis is not a bad look for a mortgage deal. So we pretty much in agreement. But how do you feel about what I said in regards to Anthony Davis coming here as the guy as opposed to coming here with other guys? I'm not going to say I don't want Anthony Davis. Could you imagine me, the Knicks fan, so high and mighty? I don't want Anthony Davis. What I will say is that Anthony Davis coming here as the main guy to count on makes me think about Amari Stoudemire way too much. And Anthony Davis is a better player than Amari Stoudemire. But health-wise, Anthony Davis has more injuries than a little bit. And it's so crazy because they don't even be the same injury. One day his ankle's hurt. Next day his knuckle hurt. Next day he hurt his elbow. Next day he injured his earlobe. Like, Anthony Davis be all over the place with the injuries. But you put him on a team where he's not just the main guy and he's with two other all NBA type guys, whew, that could be dangerous. But once again, if we whiff, we got a bunch of young dudes that we could build with. And I'm not against letting these young dudes build. I'm not that thirst. Like, if the Knicks whiffing free agency, it's not because they weren't in position to get somebody. It's that Golden State is a better option for Kevin Durant. It would be because Golden State's a better option for Klay Thompson. It would be because Charlotte is a better option for Kemba Walker. I don't see guys not coming to New York but going elsewhere. That I don't see happening. I could see, I'll give you one non-Knicks scenario. Matter of fact, before I bring up my non-Knicks scenario, let's see. Al says the Knicks have to get away from this one guy thing. You need complementary pieces. And that's exactly what I'm saying about Anthony Davis. You got to have complementary pieces. Don't go try to bring in Anthony Davis to be the main guy surrounded by Kevin Knox and Alonzo Trier and these guys. I'd rather just go all the way. Complementary pieces. Anthony Davis is one of the best players in the NBA, but because of his injury history, he's probably not the best player in the NBA. But team him up with other guys that are like the best players in the NBA, and you get to see some New York eliteness going on that we've never seen ever. Middleton and Milwaukee, great complementary player with Davis. Middleton is awesome. I don't see him leaving his boy Giannis, though. I'll tell you that. Al says, without complementary pieces, essentially would burn Melo and KP out. They were the only options clocking mad minutes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Melo's supporting cast wasn't good. And then by the time KP came, Melo was already on his way out for the most part. But yeah, I agree with that. We never really had those other guys. Never really had those other guys. I'll tell you a unique situation I'm thinking about. I'll be the first one to tell you, I would love KD in New York. I believe that if they win the championship, they're going to go for the four-peat because nothing builds your legacy better than doing something that even Michael Jordan didn't do. Everybody's talking about Kevin Durant wants to top LeBron James. Well, let me tell you how you top LeBron James. You win the championship this year, which they still have to do, so it's not a given, but it's a strong chance they may be able to do it. If you win this year, you three-peat, you have a chance at a four-peat in a new arena. Just think about that for a second. The last player that four-peated, if I'm not mistaken, was Bill Russell. You talking about doing something that Michael Jordan did not do. Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, you name them. Nobody's done it. Bill Russell did it. So, if the Golden State Warriors win the championship this year, I firmly believe that Kevin Durant stays. It's hard for me to believe he stays on another 1-year deal. I don't know that he may want to be locked in, but it's not far-fetched to me that he signs a crazy 1-year deal one more time, a big money 1-year deal. They keep Boogie, but Klay, I wouldn't be shocked. And if they lock up Durant, I wouldn't be shocked if they create a new version of the Splash Brothers with Klay and Steph. I'm sorry, with KD and Steph, and don't pay Klay. If they don't lock up Durant, that bodes well for keeping Klay. If they want to move forward with Durant and Steph, which is a better, remember, they won the finals without Klay Thompson. If you put Kevin Durant and Steph Curry together, that's an improved version of the Splash Brothers that is fully capable of winning with Boogie Cousins and Draymond Green and whoever else they have on the team. So that's one of my other theories, that Klay Thompson leaves, goes to the Lakers. I think he'll stay on the West Coast, and that if the Golden State Warriors move to the new arena and lock up KD, this is and try to go and four-peat. Some people was like, oh, they won't break up the Splash Brothers. So I know a guy that I talk to and about basketball every now and then, and he is from that area. He's from California, and he's a Golden State Warriors fan. And he has been for some time, not just through the championships. And he was saying how he actually put this idea in my head, because I was like, no way they're going to break up the Splash Brothers going into a new arena. Why would they do that? Especially if they coming off a championship. But then he talked about the owners of the Golden State Warriors and how the owners of the Golden State Warriors, you know, they're kind of been the front runners on how a lot of things are going in ownership and business and NBA and things. They're out there in Silicon Valley. So the startup businesses, the technology, it's all right there. You know, whether you want to hear this or not, Kevin Durant to me doesn't benefit much more by coming to play in New York while he's in Silicon Valley winning championships. So he said years ago, remember when Monte Ellis was the face of the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry was this young kid who his shot was kind of inconsistent. They tried to pair him in the backcourt with Monte Ellis. You know, it wasn't the Steph Curry you see now, and you definitely wasn't projecting him to be the Steph Curry you see now. He had the ankle injuries. He was always hurt. You know, it just wasn't a great look with Monte in the backcourt, but Monte was that dude for them. They loved him out there. And then what did the Golden State ownership do? They traded Monte. And I don't know if y'all remember, but a lot of people wasn't feeling that. Like, that wasn't the move. How dare you trade Monte? And for Steph Curry, who's Steph Curry? What has he done? Well, needless to say, we see what has happened, and we see what Steph has become. Now, I am not going to compare Monte Ellis to Klay Thompson, and obviously they've won championships with Klay Thompson, and Klay Thompson is one of the better two-way players in the NBA, one of the best shooters in the NBA, maybe one of the best shooters in NBA history. So I'm not going to disrespect Klay Thompson, but I am saying that the Golden State front office is probably got 100 scenarios in play. And I think that if KD leaves or stays, they have plans for either situation. But it's 10:56. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I appreciate y'all coming through. Bomani was good. It's all good, my brother. You could watch it on GoGoGadget Green on YouTube. I'm going to upload this, so let everybody know they can catch the replay on GoGoGadget Green and the replay of all our shows. Thank y'all for coming through. I always appreciate you. And to everybody at GoGoGadget Green On the YouTube channel, thank you for subscribing. Please go and join. If you're on Facebook, go and join the Facebook group, The Green of Thrones NYC Sports. That's The Green of Thrones NYC Sports. We did Knicks talk tonight. I got my Oakley jersey on. You know what I'm saying? Representing. That's how we do. I'm showing my age. You know when you say, know what I'm saying? Do they still say that? Anybody 25-year-olds or younger say, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But, yo,